So just to read from the Yonim, just to get the flow, the last is just a few broad sketches. So the Lechem in the Oretz, this is the Berur, the Nitzutzim, or this is the Birur of the Nitzutzim that's sourced in Toyo, through which we are Mamshech, it is the Toyo and Kelim and Tikkun. Before Avedis Adam is the Birur Milamayla Lamata, and they're the higher Nitzutzim. The higher Nitzutzos become absorbed in Atzilus, and the Psoilus fall, the Psoilus, the waste, the residue that is not waste, but the residual falls to Atzilus, and then that continues that process, falling to Yitzir and so on. The Birur, however, is Malamata Lamaila, and it begins with rejecting the very coarse Psoilus and then elevating the good all the way to Atzilus. And the paradox was that the low Nitzutzi Kedusha are of a higher source. So these two, Ifanim and Avodah, above to below and below to above, are also in Avodah. These two Ifanim are Birur, Mitzad Lamaila, and then Avodah Sa'odam are also reflected in Avodah Sa'odam. And that is Avodah Mitzad Neshama, and then Avodah Mitzad Guf. That's reflected also in Torah and in Tefillah. In Torah itself, Pnimis HaTorah Nigla. So now concluding Vapizeh Yuvan, let's conclude the Maimon. Vapizeh Yuvan Mashakosov will answer all the questions raised at the beginning of the Maimon. Now, Vehoyo Ba'Achlachem Lachem in the Oretz Tzarim Etrum Alavaya. So when you eat the bread of the land, so you will make an offering to Hashem. Now, Tzarim Truma is repeated again later in the same pasuk. So why is that? So the Sifri says it's not referring to Truma Gedola, not Chala, but the simple meaning is it's referring to Chala. So explains in Yin Achila Hu Shal Yod Nase Chibra Nefesh Vaguf. What's Achila? Through which the fusion of the Guf and the Nefesh happen. Behind the fish Mishnayim, because in order to be able to fuse the body and the soul, the nefesh, it means that it's from a level that's higher than both of them. As we have had occasion to learn and examine. So this causes the elevation of the lechem in the oretz. This is elevating the nitzutzis of Toyo, a Birur de Shemban. Birur de Shemban, as we explained at length, is the Birur Malamata Lamayla, that's Malchus. Shemban is Yud Kevavke spelled with a Hey, the Milui, and that's Malchus, and that Malchus is all about governance, it's all about accepting the king. Our relationship is defined by the Mata. So this is a Birur Malamata Lamayla, this is Avodah Sa'odam. Ba'ad Shenase Hagboa V'haroma, we're elevating Torimu Truma Lavaya, as the pasuk says. What do we want? We want that in Shemban, that he said this was addressed earlier, that there should be the fusion of Shemban and Shema, which means Maila Mata and Mata Lamaila. That there should be the Giloy of Shema, the Tikkun, which is of Tikkun Sheshosh Lamaila Mitoyo. We explained that the source of Tikkun is higher than Toyo because there Gvul and Bli Gvul are harmonious. And that is Shehu Inyan Lechem Min HaShemayim. So the Gilah Shema, that's Lechem Min HaShemayim. So what are we speaking now therefore? Inyan Achibu the Lechem Noratzim Lechem Min HaShemayim. So we're talking about the fusion of Lechem Min HaOretz, which is the Birur Milamata, but Lechem Min HaShemayim, which is the Birur Milamayla. Lechem Min HaOretz is the Birur Shemban, and Lechem Min HaShemayim is the Birur of Shemban. And the idea is they become one. That at once, one of the many manifestations this is that at once, it's simultaneously, it's all God's doing and all our doing. In Avodah, it's the fusion of Yehuda Tator and Yehuda Law, which in their own worlds are opposite perspectives. Yehuda Tator, the starting point is the self. Yehuda Law, the starting point is a likus. Can't have two starting points, but that's the chibur. The chibur is of Yehuda Law and Yehuda Tator and Yehuda Law, meaning that even Yehuda Tator that feels the way that it does, this itself is Yehuda Law. As we explained, that the Yesh HaNivra is expressive of the Yesh HaAmiti. Like he says in the Kuntas Yitzchak of the Rebbe Rashab, in chapter 7, even those, that's all of us, that for various reasons, our avodah can only be Yehuda Tator, cannot escape the inherent Yeshus. Nonetheless, even though he cautioned against fantasy and illusion in Avodas Hashem, nonetheless, one has to entertain, at least intellectually, and know the emes that the only reason he feels independent, this itself is a likus mitzad the Yesh HaAmiti. So he has to also think about Yehudi Lo, the fact that the Jew says Shema Yisrael, not just Baruch Shem. He has to close his eyes. What does he have to close his eyes? Because it's not his reality. So he has to close his eyes. But with closed eyes, he's got to entertain the truth of Yehudi Lo, even though his eyes tell him something else. And he says it in Netzachayim that this is necessary. It's necessary for the avodah of Yehuda Tator, because if the avodah is going to remain forever tethered to self, and it's not even the entertainment that's not you, and that you is only because he desires it such, and it's only based on what he understands, it's going to lead in the end to taivas and everything else. It's not going to be consistent. It can't be consistent, because if it's all predicated upon the yesh, so he's not always in the mood. But if he's going to be tied up to something high, even though it's not his place, but he's hooked there, so this will see to it that the Yehuda Tator, even when there's the justification for otherwise, he'll remain loyal, because he's seen the truth, he knows the truth. It's not his truth, but it is the truth, and something that he has seen and understands it in Seichel, and therefore that's critical to Yehuda Tator, to his general avodah, which is going to be the avodah with the self, as he explains in Perek Zayin over there, based on Tanya. So now further, in this boy Besidr, this will be understood further by prefacing that which the Alter Rebbe says in the Siddur, the Shah Birchas HaMazon, in the gate dealing with benching, Ubedrushki hu Yevoirach es hazevach, v'yachri yochla akruyim, a pasuk which begins, a line which begins with that statement, and that is, Dini Omer Chazal, says the Alter Rebbe there, Rebbe says as follows: the Kol Zman, it's page Reish. You have the Sefer, Reish Ches Tzadik.
Yeah, the copies here.
There's copies.
Yeah, there's copies.
Yeah, the end of the Maimon. Kol Zman should be Semikdash Kayim. So when the Beis Hamikdash stood, says the Gemara Pesachim, Mizbeach mechaper, so the Mizbeach brought atonement. The Achshav, but now Shulchan shall all the mechaper of a person's table atones for him. What does this mean? Explains the Alter Rebbe. On the one hand, there's a comparison because then the Mizbeach brought atonement, and now a person's table. On the other hand, they're still not the same. They're not synonymous. So what are they? What's Mizbeach? What's the Din of Mizbeach? What's the Din of Shulchan? Vubazen explains, this is the difference between the consumption of the Mizbeach and the consumption of the Karbonos by the Kohen. both affect atonement. Shegam achilas kohenim b'inyan shel kapara. The kohen eats of the korban chatas that a Jew brings. This also brings the Jew atonement. K'maymer azal kohenim oichlim b'bayalim eschaprim. The kohenim eat, and so the first quote is from the Gemara in Brachas. So this is Psachim. The kohenim eat, and the owner of the korban achieves atonement. So what's the difference? Achilas mizbeach in abira de malchus. Achilas mizbeach is the birur of malchus. That's the birur of ban. Is the avodas ha'adam lamata v'lamayla. What does that mean? What's he bringing? The animal? Which animal? His animal. He's slaughtering his yitzhahara. In the words of the Gemara. Meaning that the islabshus nefesh habayis, the mizbeach is the birur melamata l'mayla, the birur the ban of malchus, which is the birur of engagement, not inspiration that comes through riboy oid and neshama, and the nefesh habayis is temporarily blown away, but nefesh habayis is engaged in all of its limitations and the resistance. There is the avodah, skafia, etc. So this is the birur of ban, and this ascends to the level of malchus. It is the inyan of malchus, and therefore ascends to the level of malchus. Malchus datzilus, he speaks. Mashenkin achilas adam, but the kohenim's consumption of l'mayla minyan achilas hamizbeach. This is a higher level. This is the birur milamayla lamata vo inyan achilas b'chinas zo. This is not malchus, but this is zo's revelation. Zo's descent, as it were, and consumption, or suffusing malchus with oil. That's the achila of malchus. Shebchinas adam be'elyon shala kisei. The kisei is malchus. The adam be'elyon on the kisei, that's zo. It's all, friends, it's all basic Kabbalah, Chassidus. Let's get the geography hopefully straight. The basic ideas. So now concluding the Alter Rebbe's beer in time of the Beis Hamikdash, the Mizbeach was mechaper, and now it's a person's table. That a person's table atones for him. Here the intent is it's actually higher than Zman Habayis. Conventionally, after the Beis Hamikdash is destroyed, the avodah is lower, but he is bringing out a maila that requires explanation, and the maila is missing at the end, so we don't have the full thing. Maybe there's more explanation, but at any rate, so the meaning therefore is shulchani shel adam mechaper olav, that this is achilas adam, analogous to the chil of the kohenim, the adam elyon, the supernal being zah, that's amshochem l'mayla lamata, which is higher than achilas hamizbeach, because achilas hamizbeach avodas adam only reaches that which a person can reach, which is generally malchus, because that's the source of biyah, and a person cannot go higher than his source. But that precipitates, he said earlier, the amshochem l'mayla lamata, and now he's saying without the Beis Hamikdash, so we have the avodah incredibly of shulchan shel adam. And that is, as he says, the Amshach of Zoh in Malchus. That's why the challah is given to the kohen. So the Jew separates the challah. That's the avodim l'mata l'mayla. He gives it to the kohen. That's the amshachim l'mayla l'mata. Shazen ne'amar Vehoyo באכלכם בלחם בארץ תרים בתרומה להשם. That is one of the questions that Truma is given before you eat, not after you eat. Now we have the answer. The eating of the bread is the birur. And after the birur of the person, then then it is given to the kohen, and then there's a new birur, a birur melamayla lamata. So there are three birur. There's the birur before avodah, and then there's the birur of avodah, and then there's a result of the birur of avodah, which is the fusion of both mayla mata and mata lamayla. Which is barely as we just said now. שגם בעבודה ייחוד תתו, even in his own avodah, יורגש הביטול ייחוד אלוה, which means, as we said, that he recognizes that his sense of independence, this itself is the desire for the kos and the reflection of the Yesh Amiti. That's why he feels separate. This itself is a likus. So therefore, it doesn't allow that sense of separateness to get a life of its own. So that's the 2 times in the Pasuk Terim Truma, the 2 Birurim. Tefillah Lamata Lamaila and Torah Lamaila Lamata. Mavur Gam Bedrushi Tofish Chavzaim Tofish Chavtes explained that these my bottom of Rebbe Madash Chaser Hasiyim. The writers of the Maimon tell us sorry, they apologize, they don't have the end of the Maimon. Okay, I think we'll start the next Maimon. I can read to you. We'll read the Teichen Yonim. Next Maimon, my dear friends, is even more cryptic than this one. So we said Alechem in the Odets, that's the elevation of the Nitzutze Kedusha to the Shadish and Toyo, to which we mamshich the Iris of Toyo and Kelim the Tikkur. Well, actually, I read the whole introduction before we started the Maimon. So that's the general overview. No substitute for Chazorah.